Well, this is a privilege for me. I bumped into this gentleman last year. Didn't even know he existed until I started delving deep, because he makes something special that's far too finesse for me to use. But I'm joined today by Tom Moir from FFS Lures.
Hi, how you doing?
Thanks for coming into the special podcast room.
Hey, you're welcome. You're welcome. Thanks for having me.
Known as the kitchen. Yeah, we're not like a Corda who have their own little podcast room. We have the kitchen. Yeah. No, I really appreciate you giving up your time, Tom. That's fantastic. Thank you. Right. So what we're going to do, we're going to delve deep into Tom Moir.
Oh dear.
Yeah. And how you got into this fascinating work of designing and making your own lures and obviously selling them, and now making a living out of it.
Yeah. It's going good. It's going good, as they say.
Fantastic. So, and most importantly for me, you are local.
Yeah. I moved into the area 4 years ago, and that's when I really got into lure fishing. Why wouldn't you lure fish in the fens?
Yeah, perfect. Right, let's delve straight into the lures first of all.
Sure.
So, before we go into the Tom Moir backstory, you produce an awful lot of what I would call finesse type lures.
Yes. Yeah. The company is FFS Lures. So the FFS is the name of the first lure that I produced, and it's the one that I really wanted to make because I was using other brands and thought, well, I can do that. And FFS stands for Floating Finesse Stick. So
I actually thought it. I'm glad you said that. I thought it stood for something that I say sometimes when I pull out a big fish. Yeah.
Yeah, well, that's the other way. Yeah, people say, "Oh, what did you catch that on?" FFS. All right, mate. That's okay.
Floating finesse stick.
Floating finesse stick. Yeah.
Right. Okay. So that is a.
The floating finesse stick is it's a 3-inch stick bait, but to get around making things float and keep them lovely colours is. I've actually designed the mould to incorporate an air cavity. So
right.
Instead of adding something that floats, the actual physics of the lure make it very buoyant. And what we've seen with the other brands is that floating baits fished very slowly in the winter just work. They look like nothing, but they just get bit. That's it. They just get bit.
I have to get my head around this because being a die-in-the-wall pike angler, I have to be pulling something back when I'm lure fishing. Yep. It has to look in the water like a fish, otherwise it throws me.
Yep.
Having been musky fishing, I now realise a lot of the time you're actually trying to get the fish to react.
Yep.
So it doesn't have to look like a fish.
Yep.
But now...
now we're not even getting reactions, we're just getting...
Yeah,
eaten.
Incredible.
Yeah.
What we'll do, as we go through the different types of baits that you make, we'll make a short video, and I'm going to put this on the Facebook page. So, guys, obviously, go back, because I'm going to put this on the Wednesday slot. Have a look at these lures, and then what we'll try and do over the next few weeks is do a longer version and explain how to rig them.
That sounds perfect.
Perfect. That'd be really cool. Okay, so you made the first one, which was the stick bait. Now,
yes.
For everyone listening, it's basically like a dead worm.
It is a
pink
dead
and white
it's
dead
a
worm.
dead worm. If you know about your lures and you think of a Senko type lure, that is it. But it is just hollow at one end, which makes it sit upright when it's on the bottom. The plastic I use is plastic from Lure Factors, which is another company in the UK for making lures, and it's extremely soft, so it just folds. So a 3-inch lure, you can use it and catch small fish, or around here, my biggest pike at 21 pound was on an FFS. So.
See, the ones I've seen from the company you just mentioned are thicker.
Much thicker. So again, what I wanted to do was make it for the European market. So instead of trying to adapt a bass lure,
yes,
I wanted to make a UK European lure.
And that's what's put me off in the past. I've seen this thing, I can't describe it, they look like little plastic dog turds. And I'm thinking, yes, what is going to take that? But that does look far more subtle.
Yeah, it's it's a little bit longer than the traditional Ned lures, where they're 2.75 inch, that's 3 inch, but it's an 8mm profile, so it's a real small lure, and that's pretty much why I wanted to get into making the lures, and that's why I chose this one to start with, because I was using those baits, but I thought I might be able to do that a little bit better for where we are. And that was it. That was the birth of FFS.
So you started with that one?
Started with this one. Well, I started with something similar, where I was actually adding floatant to it, but the floatant makes the lure very dull. It makes it opaque. So I can actually do a clear lure with just some black glitter, and that kills in clear water. Anything like that just absolutely kills it. And you can't do that if you add floatant. So
I've seen the photographs on your website. They're amazing, and the colours.
Thank you.
The colours are just about. I think what we'll do first.
Sure.
Let's just do a bit of publicity. Can you? Just,
Okay,
Let's just
yes.
name the web page and the Facebook page.
Yeah, it's www.ffslures.com is the website. The Facebook page is FFS Lures. Try and make sure you put in the whole word, otherwise you come up with something completely different. We do have a Facebook group, which is really, really friendly, which is a bit strange on Facebook, whereas lots of people want to help each other. I call it the FFS family rather than a Facebook group. Also on Instagram, but being the age I am, Instagram isn't at the forefront of my mind, so it's something I've got to do. I don't get it.
No,
I don't understand. I get a
Kids
lot
tell
more
me,
from
I don't get
Facebook.
it. Yeah.
Facebook for me. Instagram, I can put photographs up, but I'm so busy right now, and we spoke about this earlier, is that I haven't had time to create photographic lures or lures to showcase or do competitions with. So unfortunately, I've got to pay the mortgage because this is full time now.
Yeah,
so.
That's amazing. Right, okay, so that's a quick intro. That's brilliant. Right, before we look at the lures in depth, because like I said, we're going to fire up the camera, let's go back to you. So when did you start fishing?
Oh, it's almost a standard question, standard answer. It's about 8 years old, as I remember. So, but down in deepest, darkest Kent, my an uncle started me off fishing, and it was just getting out there on a waggler, build up the swim, catch anything and everything, to cast as far as he can. Wasn't that far, but still catch. And it was one of those starts in life where you just think, how the hell did I catch so much then and not now? When I was fishing 8 foot of water, and I was actually fishing a single maggot on a 2 foot drop on a waggler float. It's crazy. And then you build that swim up, or you then get into ledgering, which is a bit boring for a kid, but once you get there, and they gave me swing tips and things like that, so there's always something to watch. And then you get your first £2 tench. It's amazing.
Little red eye.
Yeah,
You sit there holding it, going, oh.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And it fights like nothing else. Then I suppose my first real predator was chub. So we started fishing the small Kentish, we say rivers, but anyone listening to this out in Europe or out in America, think creek, but think smaller. And that was it. So, but that was all bait fishing. Floating bread, really light touch ledgering. So I suppose I've always wanted to be mobile in my fishing. I joined the army. I went out to lots of different places. Fishing took a backseat until I got based back in the UK a bit more permanently. Found some lovely fishing in the Leicestershire area. Left the army, moved to Essex because you have to. And I ended up in the Lee Valley. So loads and loads and loads of good water. Yeah. Big chub. Yeah. Big chub. And big tench as well. And I did that for a bit. And then we decided to move.
River Lee?
River Lee.
That used to, I don't know if it still does, used to throw it from clonking fish.
Oh, it's £7 1 ounce was my biggest chub off there.
Wow.
Yeah. So that was special. And especially when I caught my PB at £5.6 that morning, and the bailiff said, "It's okay." And I realised that I may be somewhere special.
Yes.
And then I had a 7-1 about 2 hours later.
On?
That was on halibut pellet.
Right.
Yeah. So it was.
That's cheating.
It was a bit cod fishy. And then my summer PB was, and I'm honest with my weights, was £6.15. And that was on just a slow sinking bread. Yeah.
Oh, lovely.
Yeah, it was awesome.
What area of the army did you go into?
I started as a mechanic, so I started fixing tanks. That was awesome, but I had a long and varied career where it's taken away from trade to go and do other stuff, and then ended up from fixing tanks to fixing dogs. So I became a dog trainer for my last 7 years in the army.
Yeah, we'll touch on that in a minute because that's absolutely fascinating.
Yeah, it's very varied, very varied. So fixing tanks, fixing dogs, same.
An undercover James Bond as well. Oh no, I shouldn't have told people that. Okay, so right, so you've done a lot so far, haven't you, in your life?
Yeah, that was up to early 30s. So
yeah, then let's go into the dog handling because that's
sure,
the next the sort of the chronological step. So how did you go from fixing tanks to fixing dogs?
I was based in Germany for a long time, and I really wanted to do something else. When I finished with the tank career or fixing tanks, it culminated in going over to Iraq back in 2003. And once you do that, for me, that was a culmination of all that training that I've done. So in the end, you think, well, what can I do now? And I've always been interested in the animal sides of life. So I called up the Royal Army Veterinary Corps. I spoke to their unit sergeant major and said, do you think the Corps will sponsor me to be a vet, go to university? And he said, no, but we need dog trainers. Do you fancy it? I said, yes. And that was it. So again, just why not? Let's do it. And that's kind of what I've always done. It's just, I can do that. Let's do it.
You wanted to work with animals, or you had an interest in animals?
Yeah, I wanted to do that. And where we were in Germany, we would go out on exercise and we'd always drive past where the dogs were.
Yeah.
So as you're going out in the rain in your tank, thinking, what are we going to do now? Okay, he's broken down, I have to go fix him or go and get that. Or working till 10 o'clock at night on something. And there's people just walking dogs. You think, that looks cool. And then someone getting bitten by a dog, and that looks awesome. And then someone finding something, this dog just sitting and staring at a simulated bomb, and you go, that looks awesome.
Wow. So, okay, we won't go into the ins and outs, but let's go. So, you obviously started with the dog handling.
Yes.
And obviously how did you learn these skills? Or did you work it out yourself?
No. So I transferred into the Royal Army Veterinary Corps.
Yeah.
And that's when I got based into Melton Mowbray. From there, you do a course and they teach you how to handle the dog, which is quite painful for yourself because you end up getting bitten quite a bit. Whether it's on purpose or just the dog doesn't like you. Basically, these dogs back then were, they're the size of dinosaurs, their teeth were huge. No, it was either the vets or the army. And so we got a lot of problem dogs. So we actually became quite good at psychology of dogs and getting them to do what they like doing, which is biting people, and do it for us. Or these really high drive spaniels and labradors which are destroying homes across the UK, and we could just harness that literally and point it in the right direction to go and find what people don't want us to.
So I suppose basically, I mean, I'm going to dumb this down massively and I apologise. I had a chocolate Labrador, but Labradors are pretty easy to train. Yep. Basically, sit, roll. I got them to roll and do all sorts of daft things. Yeah. And because Labradors just love food. They
love food, yeah. And within military circles, we weren't into using food because we didn't want the dog to then. It was a weakness of the dog.
Yes.
So we didn't want the dog to associate the food with anything else. So if you do go to somewhere where people don't want their stuff being found, poisoning a dog is probably the easiest way to get rid of it.
Of course it is, yeah.
So we worked out how to use that dog as still a reward basis. So they still got their toy. They still worked for a tennis ball. But you basically want a dog that already has that drive involved in him. So he wants to work for a toy. At a certain age, the dog's, a good search dog will be so obsessed about the reward that you can then use that. So when I say the reward, I mean like a tennis ball or a toy. But as a puppy, and I love training puppies, training puppy at 8 weeks old to find explosives is awesome because it's so quick. You can use food. But then that goes on to the tennis ball. So you've got to, it's just teaching, it's just instructing, it's teaching, it's taking something from the early stages and then methodically work your way up to what you want that dog to do. Now with dogs, the best way to do it is to start off with what you want them to do at the end. So the first thing you teach them is sit, because when they find the bomb, you want them to sit. If you want them to bite people, you might want to teach them to leave. So that's the end. So you teach them to bite something, teach them to leave it. Some people don't like that, but that's it's just ways of doing it. And there's so much psychology involved with training a good dog that it's so interesting. And that's pretty much where I went from tanks, where it's all written down. If the tank don't go, you fix X. If a dog don't bite, what is it? And it's a real thinking procedure. So whenever I got out in Kosovo, I was with the QDG. So any guys listening from the QDG, hi, I was the guy out in Podievo. So anyone, you get a radio message to say that the vehicle's not doing this, and you go, yeah, it's that. And you can either tell them how to do it over the radio or you go and do it. But for me, that was, I knew what I was doing. So there was no real...
you were going through the motions.
Going through the motions, rather than actually going, oh, that's how this works, and that's how that, and that's how that.
You were going through the motions, getting shot at while fixing the tank.
Well, Kosovo wasn't so bad. It was
ducking and diving.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
Yeah. So that was it, and then that culminated in Iraq. So all that training, we decided to go to the dogs, and then from the dogs, culminated in 2 tours of Afghanistan, looking for bombs, and found some. So
that's incredible.
That was.
Are there any stories we can share on air?
Oh,
any good ones you got?
Trying to think of ones that people won't go, yeah, whatever. Do
you want to come back to it?
Yeah, we'll come back to that.
Yeah,
I'll come back to that. There's a lot there. There's the further career for dogs is probably more able to talk about a bit easier.
Yeah, okay. Because obviously, some things people need not know.
No,
yes,
no,
okay.
No, it's nothing bad that I can think of, but it was normal back then.
Yeah.
Whereas I look back at it now and think, oof.
Yeah.
That's about it.
So in my head, and correct me if I'm wrong, you get a batch of dogs. Obviously, each dog has a different personality, but you're looking for the dogs that are very interested in
100%.
a reward item. Because we've got a spaniel. He will not leave a tennis ball alone.
Yeah,
he's absolutely besotted with it.
Yeah, perfect.
Yeah, so
perfect. If you can teach him to do something, to think how to get that tennis ball, and this is the thing that there's two trains of thought, that people hide the tennis ball, the dog finds the tennis ball, or you train the dog to realise that if he finds this smell, he'll get a tennis ball. So that dog is more of a thinking dog, and the other dog is more of a reactive dog. Both can be trained and both work very well, but it's however you want to do it. So the next stage of dogs. Wow. Left the army 2011. Really lucky. Fell on my feet again. Went and trained dogs for the Olympics. So London Olympics, straight out, I got a phone call from a local company who was actually the contract winner, and they said, we need someone to train our dogs.
For security?
Yeah.
Wow.
For explosives detection on the athletes' village. So that was awesome.
Did you have to start from scratch? Or did you have
most of the dogs were already there, but because it was such a long contract, you had to replace dogs, get new dogs. There was always going to be, and this is where the private sector is so different to the military, in that you have more constraints. All of a sudden, you've got 10 dogs, and then they want another 2, but actually 2 more dogs is another 8 dogs, because you've got to have a replacement dog for that. For those 2 dogs, that's 4 dogs, and then you've got to have a night shift 4 dogs, and so in the end, it's it's not just 2 dogs, it's 8. So having that, we need dogs.
So were you training and the dog handler? Or?
At the end I was handling as well, because all the training was done. We had all the teams, so you just rushing around East London, Stratford, looking for things. Oh, hey, funny story then. Okay. So
your face just lit up.
My first indication, I cannot say who the athlete was. However, my first indication was, as the athletes were coming in, all our dogs are trained on all manner of explosives, and my dog, she was fantastic. One of the worst house dogs we ever have, but for a working dog, absolutely brilliant. And she indicated on this bag, and everyone just looked at me, and I looked at everyone else, because it doesn't happen. You just go, oh my God, what the hell is this? This is an athlete's bag. And it was a British athlete as well. And you just think, oh no. And it turned out that one of the component parts in one of the homemade explosives was in this bag. Doesn't mean it was a bomb,
No.
but the dog found this. But it also turned out that this male athlete was the most hairless athlete on the Olympic Village, with the amount of products that he had in his bag. And yeah, it was interesting.
Oh, I bet he was like wondering what was going on.
Yeah, because the bags are all unaccompanied as well. So you've got this team manager. Yeah, that's this person's bag. And you're like, oh my God, I've just a gold medalist. Oh no. Uh-oh. Yeah, let's not evacuate everything, but we still got to go through the drills and everything else. So there's a story.
Yes.
Yeah.
I like that one.
Hairless athletes. It gives them seconds.
People be sitting there going,
who the hell was that?
What sport?
Was it a runner?
Yeah. Was it a swimmer? Was it a cyclist? Yeah.
Yeah.
And well. Oh dear.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And from there I went to that all finished. Went out to Ethiopia, taught there the UN security how to handle dogs, and trained some dogs for them out there.
Wow.
So, yeah, it's really varied. When I just think about it now, I go, okay, that was cool. Yep. So I spent a month in Ethiopia. That was an eye opener.
Yeah.
But awesome place. Really friendly people.
I was going to say about that. Yeah.
All you think about at our age, all you think about is famine.
Yeah.
But it wasn't. It was vibrant. Really friendly people. Really good people as well.
My auntie was a nurse in Kenya.
Oh wow!
That was a long time ago.
Yeah.
But she was there for 10 years, and every time I saw her as a kid, she couldn't tell me how nice all the locals always were.
Yeah. Yeah, Ethiopia. So that was the end of the Olympic contract place that I was working at. So that was the final fray there, and from there I went to northern France to train dogs, or to handle dogs on the borders, to catch people that haven't paid for a ticket and not necessarily gone through security.
That's a very politically correct way.
That's a very politically correct way, yes.
Putting it.
Yes, it was.
And how long were you doing that role for?
I did that for just short of 5 years.
Wow.
Just short of 5 years. So
I bet you saw some sights.
You see a lot of sights. You see real heart-wrenching moments with families where they put themselves through hell to get where they are. But then you also see the other side of the coin, which isn't great. And we just did our jobs and we stopped them for that day.
Well, you see desperate people and people who are being taken advantage of, and people who are taking advantage.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So you see all of it. So you become a little bit. For me, it was a game. It was a game of hide and seek, and I had a dog, and we won a lot.
Yeah.
And that was awesome though. That was one of the. I have got a story. I have got a story. One day it was one of my last days, because I handled, but then I went straight into the training role of training the dogs to do it as well. And one of my last ever finds of someone was a guy on the axle of a truck, and he came out and he was actually wearing traditional garb for Pakistan. So it was actually very strange to see, because normally it's a lot of guys in the back of a truck, Western clothing, and he came out and said to me, "Mate, that's an awesome dog." I was like, "Where are you from?" He said, "Well, I've lived in Peckham for a long time." And he's got this London accent. And I said, "Well, what were you doing?" He said, "Well, I had to go back to Pakistan. I was here illegally, but my brother died in Pakistan, so I went back, and now I'm just trying to get back to the UK." Now, Peckham is about 20 minutes away from my old stamping ground where I was brought up. So we had a bit of a conversation. This German lorry driver is now thinking that we're in cahoots. Yeah. And he's like, "You said good luck." Like, sorry to any German listeners, that's a very, very bad accent. However, he was a bit dismayed that I was having this chat. But that's how it ended up in the end. And you'd catch the same people, and especially from the military background. So I was actually catching people from places where I'd been, and also the actual specific towns. And so actually talk to people, and it was again eye-opening.
Yeah.
It
shows
doing that.
I've only known you a little while. The personable side of you can actually break down those barriers and You're doing a job, nothing personal.
Yeah, absolutely.
Have a chat with these people, and
yeah.
just you're paid to do a job, and that's the end of it, and that's
absolutely.
the legality of it, and that's what we have to do, I suppose. Yeah,
Absolutely. I mean, the one thing they always said was, "Oh, Mister, one chance." And it's like, mate, you had it. You just weren't very good.
Yeah.
Maybe tomorrow. I'll see you tomorrow.
Yeah,
And you invariably do, or you don't.
Yeah.
And that's the game.
well,
Yeah.
can't be straighter than that.
No.
So, were you dabbling with the lure making while you were still dog handling and dog training?
Yes. The benefit of doing that last job in northern France was the working hours. So the working hours were 1 week on, 1 week off. So you worked really hard for 7 days, and then when you came home, you had a week off. So in that week off, this is when I first started the lures, and I didn't actually start making them to sell. I made them for myself. So I had, before I started making them, I had 3 go-to patterns, and I'll say what they were. It was the Keytech. So I went through a huge learning curve with the lures, and I bought everything, as everyone does. And I still have lures on the shelf, which I've never used, because I just went, I want that. And then in my OCD military brain, I thought, actually, there's 2 colours that really work for me, and that was Junebug and Green Pumpkin, and natural colours for swim baits. And everything I was really doing was perch fishing, so nothing over 3 inches. And my lures were 2.8 Keytech Crazy Flapper in Junebug or Electric Green Pumpkin, and the other Keytech one was the Swing Impact Fat in 2.8, and that was in Bluegill Flash, and those colours just worked. And then my other lure that was my go-to was and I'm going to say it was a Z-Man TRD in black and blue and the Deal. They were my colours, and therefore I got all these lures. So what I find is that if I have too much choice, I want to chop and change, and then I start doubting what I'm doing. Whereas if I limit my choice to colours that I know work, lures that I know work, I can maybe adapt that lure by cutting a bit off it, making it shorter, rigging it slightly different, rather than be throwing it for 5 minutes thinking that's not working when you've not actually put it in front of a fish. Yes. So when I see a lot of people chop and change regular, I think, well, how do you know you've not put it in front of a fish? So I want to fan cast that swim, and I'll probably change a rig before I'll change a lure.
Yeah.
Because my colours, I fish the colour for the conditions, and my colour choices are dark for dirty water and low light. If it's clear water, I'll go for a natural pattern.
Yep.
And if it's where I think there's zander, I'll go bright colour. And that's it. So I've got 3 colour choices, or 3 colour types. So therefore I've got 3 colour choices. So the lures I make, I personally use the Trues for bright, Contusion for dark, and Something Special for my natural colour. And that's it. So I just have these 3 colours. And then I'll look at how I want to fish. If I want to fish a drop shot, I'll fish an Imby. And if I want to fish Texas, I'll fish a Beetle Craw or Thang. And if I want to fish a Ned, I'll fish a stick. And that's it. It's just
but
simple.
Also, you that's simple, but you also cut them down, don't you? Physically, take pieces off them and make them smaller.
Yeah,
more finesse.
I will cut them down. Last year's PB was a 48 centimetre perch from one of the locals, and that was a cut down Thang, which is a Beaver style, and that was on a Ned Rig. So not necessarily what most people would do, but I cut down from 3 1/4 inch down to 3 inch, put it on a Ned Rig, and had a 48 centimetre perch.
Yeah, is that just for you felt you had to do something slightly more finesse in that particular situation?
Yeah, I was actually, the only place they were biting was in a specific location within about a foot of the far bank, and that far bank was a good 30 yards away, and I'd like to fish ultralight, so my ultralight that day was a 2 to 9 gram rod, and I was fishing a 7 gram Ned and maybe 3 grams. So I was overloading the rod by a gram, but it's not a big deal. But I had to get that in that zone, and they were hitting it. It was more of a profile. If you see people punching mats in the States or flipping and pitching to structure, it was getting as close to the far bank wall as possible, and within a foot of that wall, it was getting smashed.
Yeah.
It was just where they were living.
Yeah.
And all it was just watercraft. You know,
Yeah.
at that particular time, on that bend, under that bit of structure. Damn it, I gave it away. That's where
I know that swim.
you know that swim.
God.
That's that spot, and that's where they were. There's no point fishing other places on that swim. You just know that with the water bending that way, and that's from just the chub fishing.
Yeah.
In the streams.
Yeah.
You know where they live.
Well, that's
you know where they
fascinating. What we'll do, I'm going to turn the camera on,
sit. Oh God.
and then because you can start showing me the different types of baits that you've got and telling me what they are,
Yeah,
and
sure.
we'll have the little colour description as well. It's because obviously over audio, it's quite difficult for people to.
Yes, it's like what was it 20 questions?
Yeah, it is. And what we'll do, I will, depending on how well we manage to do this, we'll definitely put a little short version up as the teaser, but we might do a longer version as well. So let me just get the camera set up.
Sure.
Mate, this should be all done. I even got it all set up with the. Right, let me just tilt it down. Ooh.
Are we on the shotgun mic on there, or are we still recording
We are
here?
talking through there, but this will pick you up as well.
Okay.
And what we'll do, we'll just pretend the shotgun mic's on.
Yeah.
And so what we will do is, if you'd explain it to me over the podcast.
Yep.
But we've got the visual as well.
Sure.
And then we'll
So so basically, I'll keep talking to you and show you, and this
Yeah.
will just pick up.
So we are recording on that, and it's got the autofocus on you.
Awesome.
So
I'll
it
stop moving.
We'll just
Yeah.
be fine.
Okay.
Okay. So.
Where do we start?
Where do we start? So let's start at the beginning. Show me your original
Okay.
finesse floating stick.
So the stick. This is the second coming of the stick. So there we are with. It's basically just a floppy stick bait. There's nothing exciting about it, but when it sits on a Ned Rig, that little waving tail in any current or that's any movement, even if you're thinking you're fishing it static, you're not. It's always moving. It's always got that little twitch.
To people just listening to the podcast, a Ned Rig is basically, you've got like I would say, a little base of a weight.
Yeah,
with
it's
a
like
hook sticking straight up.
Sure, it's like a half moon. Rather than a round ball jig, it's a half moon. So the weight is actually, naturally, it wants to sit upright.
And the hook sticking up.
And the hook sitting up. So by dragging that across
how would you
the
hook
bottom,
that bait on that Ned Rig?
This bait, you go straight through the centre.
Yeah.
Feed up and round.
Yeah.
And the air chamber, it's all physics. Because it's closed at one end, the air doesn't escape.
Yeah.
And what you don't want to do, you don't want to change that air chamber. So
you don't want to pierce it.
Yeah, you don't want to pierce it. You can, and if you use a Ned weight, it should still sit upright, but it won't all the time.
Yeah.
But what I did, I've actually designed it so that it takes a size 4 Gamakatsu EWG, or what I stock is the Gerza line of hooks, and that's a size 2. But also you can go up to a size 1 Ned hook. So the original Ned hooks from Z-Man were on a size 2. But what I've done, I've designed that solid piece there, so you're not getting into the chamber, and that will take a size 1 hook.
Before you go into the chamber.
Before you go into the
Very
chamber.
clever.
So everything sort of come from, again, how are you going to fish it? How am I going to design it? So that's where we went there.
And just hold it upright. So people listening, I'll describe this to you. Some of you will know what we're on about with the Ned Rig and what was Z-Man? What do they initially have?
Z-Man was the TRD.
Which is more bass.
Yeah, it's a fatter profile.
Yeah.
It's slightly smaller at 2.75 inches.
Yeah.
That's 3 inches.
This finesse stick, if Tom holds it up, the end, hold it upright, buddy, so like you're fishing it, the end, you can see how it would move in the water. Even stationary, that's going to be moving all the time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And again, you don't have to just Ned it. So for me, I don't Ned that often.
Ash Costa doesn't Ned it, does he?
No, he Texas rigs it.
Yeah.
And there's all this. There's one of the biggest things recently was, do you peg your Texas rig? So pegging just means that you stop the weight from moving.
Yeah.
I generally don't peg. I don't stop that weight moving on the line unless I'm fishing into snags, because then I don't want that weight to, because when you Texas rig, the weight comes down and then that will follow. Now this doesn't, this stays up. So those hooks that I mentioned, that size 2 or size 4, that will actually, you can use that as a float. That is how buoyant it is. It sticks out. If you have it on the surface of the water.
That must work superbly on a Texas rig, because
Yeah.
if you get the
So
jig
there.
head the right weight, you can critically balance it.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So
Wow.
the lighter you go.
Yeah.
And also with this, which not a lot of people do, is I fish that top water weightless.
Do you really?
Yeah. So that now is my walking bait on top.
Wow.
So it's so versatile.
Yeah.
Just that. And again, people say, oh, it's really soft. But I'm not messing about with that. It's tough. It's a tough old stretchy bit of plastic. There's no salt content in it. And that's what keeps it tough. So those baits that I really liked at first, the Keytex, they're really loaded with salt. And it does it. It weighs it down. Your Senko's are salt. But I don't put salt in because what salt also does, it weakens the bait.
Right.
So when I was fishing Keytex, I was getting one fish a bait, but I'd rather catch a fish.
I've got
Then
the old,
have a
Piglet
lure.
shads from Strike Pro.
Yeah.
And they're salt based, the bottom half.
Yep.
And they deteriorate in your tackle box.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And if you put any hooks in there with them and the salt. So again, with the tackle box, these, because I used to love Keytech, I still do, I just don't use them because I don't have to. That's safe. That can mix with Keytech. It can mix with other brands.
What colour is that in?
This is the Trues. So it's a lime Trues, a darker lime Trues on one side, and then almost a chartreusey lime Trues mix on the other. So that gives you, and
Cool,
what we were
yeah.
saying before about the opacity of the lure, I can put glitter in there and you get a lot of depth in there.
Okay, so you started off with that. What else were you making originally?
Originally, wow, that's going back. Okay, so the next one, and I had a competition to name it, was this lure. So this was, people might say, oh, that looks like a Spro. Or actually, this was out 8 months before Spro released theirs. So it's basically a take on a Zoom brush hog, but on steroids, so with extra flappy bits. And basically, that's a great little Carolina bait.
For anyone listening who's not into this, these are kind of creature baits.
Yeah, creature baits 100%.
Yeah, so they
I am
kind of look like nothing
something.
and lots of things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so for some reason, I don't really fish that many shads. I'm not a shad guy. I'm a creature guy, and maybe it's because they're just interesting.
Yeah.
And when I fish a swim bait, I feel like I need to swim it. So that's it.
Yeah.
Whereas when I want to hit the bottom with this, and I'm working it a little bit more, I just feel a bit more involved.
Yeah, so you use a Carolina rig with that, and obviously a fairly small hook.
Yeah, you can also Ned it.
Yeah.
You can Ned it. So again, it's the same. It's a 3-inch lure. So what I wanted to do was simplify my tackle box.
Yeah.
So my tackle box then only had one size of hook, one size of jig,
Yeah.
and therefore you can just go, oh, what am I going to do? Well, I want a bit more action. I'll put that on.
Clever.
But again, you can. When people say to me, "Oh, yeah, do you do a different size?" It's like, well, I just cut that up.
Yeah.
I cut those first bits off, and then that goes on, and then that is a real nice mouthful for quantity of perch.
Yep.
So that was the next lure, and that was the Kraken. That was named by everyone that was on my Facebook group at the time, and I think the winner got a lot of them. Yeah, just went with a lot of them. Then we went into lures that don't have a lot of action. So sometimes you just want a profile. Let's go with a different colour. So this is red signal for what we have, signal crayfish. So I've gone for a dark green pumpkin with a bit of black,
really like that colour.
Yeah, a bit of black glitter and copper in the back for the top of the crayfish colour, and then the red with glitter in the bottom. And these Beaver style baits, these are sort of your classic punching. You want to go through cover, so you don't want the lure to be hung up, so it's a nice profile. And you're wanting the fish just to go, I'll eat it.
Yeah.
So you're coming in quite fast. But in the UK, we don't do a lot of that. We don't have we don't have boats. We don't have a lot of boats where we're going to go and flip and pitch all over the place. So from the bank, when I fish, I always start near bank, work my way around, and then change things up as I need to. But the nice thing about this is when it's cold water and you don't want something with a lot of action, this doesn't really have it. So there's no flappy bits on there, as in no vibration. But what you can do is you take away or you split the beaver tail.
Oh, so, that is clever.
So in the water, the plastic that I use is buoyant. It floats without a hook. So as soon as you put a hook in it, it does sink. So we spoke about critically balancing.
Yeah,
so that float, if you were to fish that weightless, that would fall through the water column really slowly.
Wow, I bet you get hit lots of hits on the drop.
Lots of hits on the drop, really big hits on the drop.
And using ultra fine braid and a light rod and reel. Oh, that must be like
Xander on these.
Would you?
It's awesome.
Carolina,
that
to allow it to just waft and drop.
Yeah. Or and that, because it's nice and compact, if you don't take it apart like I've done there, it comes through grass, it comes through weed, nice and easy, and it just floats down. And again, it's a creature.
I suppose you want an aggressive take. You'd more Texas really, just to get it right.
Yeah,
in there.
Texas or Chebbit. But again, the reason I like the Texas unpegged, so the free running, is that the weight hits. It comes down.
Yeah.
It comes down fast, then the weight hits, and then that slowly comes down, and that's when you get your
stay
hit.
in contact with everything.
Yeah.
What size hook would you use with that?
This is. I know guys that work that on a 3/0.
Really?
I use a 1/0.
Yeah.
That's what I use on that. Like I said, in the Gamakatsu, a 1/0 or 1/0 is a size for that one, or a size 1 jig.
Yeah.
But you can go 2. But I know guys that use a 3 because they want it. That they just want to disguise a hook and just whale into that fish and hook set it. But they're catching Thames 4 or 5 pounders.
I was going to say they want that clearance, don't they? When the plastic goes down through it.
Yeah.
Wow.
So that's that one. Where do we go from there? Oh, we went to another creature bait, but this one a bit more classic looking crayfish.
Yeah.
Okay.
So anyone listening who's not into this, you've got to have a look at the video because this is amazing, the different variations we've got here. But Tom's got what Americans would call crawfish.
Claws,
and the
crawdads.
Traditional crayfish. And obviously now in the Fen drains we've got the signals and we've got the Turkish crayfish. So I'd imagine these around here would be pretty awesome.
I do okay.
Yeah.
I do okay. Like I said, I do fish. Sometimes the fish want a swim. They want that paddle tail. But 9 times out of 10, you can also get that same action. So the one I'm holding up now is called a thang. Again, this was named by a customer. Actually, it's named by Jason Vorster, who just really wanted a lure called a thang. And this is also a hollow one. So I have several floating lures. This is another one. And this has a hollow top to it. You can either use that as the floating chamber, or you can put scent in it. You can put a rattle in it. So it's a 3mm hole, so you can get a glass rattle, put it inside.
Oh, wow, that is clever.
Give it that. Now, the thing with this, I hold it upside down because they're so floppy. When it does sit up, it sits up like that. So it's quite a defensive. So you do get some real good aggressive takes on this because it's a very aggressive defensive stance. What can happen is that they take the pincers first. So they come in and smash it first. They really do disarm it. With that, if you get a big hit but no fish, you know there's a big fish in there. You throw it back out. You throw it back out like an amputee. Or you change it.
Yeah.
But again, I've used that as top water. So in fact, the river that's very close to us right now, when you see the perch busting on the surface, that flaps on the surface.
That is a good idea.
And it floats.
Yeah.
So again, and it's quite heavy. It's 2.75 grams. So on standard spinning gear, you're going to throw that quite easily. Yeah. Even on, I like my bait casters, I like my BFS stuff. That's still a heavy lure. It might even be 3. I haven't got the stats.
And with that, With the buoyant chamber,
Yep.
how would you rig it? What's your favourite way of rigging
It
it?
gave me that's a really good Ned bait.
Right.
That's a really good Ned bait. But again, where I fish and I fish, it's snaggy as hell.
Yeah.
So you can cheb that, put that on a put it on a cheb rig, and you're away. But the nice thing about the cheb is that you can either use an EWG for weedless, or you can get a worm hook or a straight shank and have it as a Ned, because it's so buoyant. No matter where that cheb is, it's going to pop up.
Yeah.
The only reason I don't really cheb is because I got schooled one day fishing thangs on the Thames. Same weight. Mine was a 5 gram cheb and Jason's was a 5 gram Texas. Same places, same spots, same boat. And I just got schooled because the cheb was actually taking the weight or the lure into the debris on the bottom.
Yeah.
Whereas the Texas was allowing it to come down.
Yeah.
And he was getting smashed on the drop, on the pause. Whereas I did catch, but I didn't catch many. And that's where I sort of looked at it and went, I'll take that on board.
Yeah, it's about on the day trying different
On the
things.
day, yeah. Whereas on other days, the cheb works. And on a hard bottom, all day long on the cheb.
There'll be some people listening to this going, what
is a cheb?
What are they on about?
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
what we'll do, we'll get some material out the next couple of weeks, just explaining very basically the difference between these rigs, how to rig them, knots to use. I've already got the knots done on the Facebook page, but the YouTube page. But we'll get this sorted, and we'll use Tom's lures to explain exactly how to rig them, which ones to rig, and how to fish them.
Fish them.
And my little plan is to actually just go out locally and not try and catch any monsters, and let's just catch fish.
Just catch fish.
Yeah.
If there's big ones, they'll come along.
Exactly.
If they're not,
yeah.
hey, what's up?
So that was the thang.
And then I thought, you know what? Actually, I haven't got the lures here, but I've got two worm lures. One's 5 inch and one's 3 inch, and they both have I didn't design this. I asked a lure mold manufacturer to add this concept to a lure that he already had. So I wanted a hollow tip. So instead of having a worm where it hits the bottom of the water and then just falls down flat, and the fish can't see it, it's got a hollow tip. So the actual worm then wafts up, and it's another enticing little tail. And again, that 5 inch, sometimes it's too big for the lures, for the fish, so I cut it down. To 3 inch.
Just leave the buoyant chamber at the end.
It's just a different profile.
And what's that one called?
That's called the Finesse Worm.
Right.
Finesse Worm,
I've
and
seen
the
that
3 inch
one.
version is the Super Finesse Worm.
Yeah, it's longer. Yes.
Yeah. And that's that. So, and all these can be drop shotted as well. Drop shot is a great technique, and
because I know you cut some of yours down to drop shot them, don't you?
Yeah. Yeah, I'm all about. I can cut down lures and make new ones. I understand that people don't necessarily want to lose a lure, but my thing is that I'd rather catch that fish, and if I need to lose
Let's talk about that, because I'm a different mindset to you. I get my big shads given to me by Wolf Creek, so it saves me a fortune. But when I'm buying other lures that I want to try out, to me it's just it's a means to an end, and if I have to change it and cut it and do things to the tail, so be it. But what sort of prices are we talking about, and how many do we get in a packet? And
I do packs of 5, 10, and 20.
Okay.
So the 5-pack is really, it's almost like a sample pack.
Yeah.
And then you're looking. I keep the cost down. I keep the cost realistic. I keep it down to £2.50
for 5.
£1 is my cheapest pack of 5. But we're talking a small tadpole, which is
Hold
like
on
1 inch.
People can't complain about cutting those.
No.
Because that's 50p a lure.
Yep.
The bait.
Yep. I liken it to 1 pack of lures and a box of lobworms.
Yeah.
You're happy to put, or I was happy to use a lobworm and go,
that's great value for money.
Yeah. I cut out the middleman. I have no middleman. It's me. I source it, I make it, I pack it, I post it.
That's incredibly cheap.
So I really keep the prices down. And they do catch fish. I mean, I'm always going to say that, but...
Oh, they do. You've only got to look on your Facebook page.
Yeah.
And I saw Wrasse on there today.
Yeah, Bannon Wrasse was on there today, featured.
Obviously, we've got perch, zander.
Pike, zander, trout, what
Chub.
else? Chub, Chub. Rough. I got told yesterday that someone had a 3-pound eel on a super finesse worm drop shotted.
Wow.
I went out fishing yesterday and bumped into 2 customers on the bank.
Did you really?
Yeah, and I was like, they recognise me, and obviously I just see the names on the order form.
Yeah.
And they said, "Oh, it's Tom." I went, "Right, I'm in this area. Who might this be? Is this you?" Yeah, that's me. It's like, "Oh, thank you." And then they were telling me how well they've done, and it's fantastic. You know, I was on that same location, and I had my first selfie with.
Your first selfie?
Yeah, it was Rob Evans and his son Jude, Anglian anglers, and they recognised me, and yeah, the trouble is, if you see me on the bank, I'm going to have lures, and if you want one, if you want a lure, if you want to try one out, just come and ask me, and I'll.
Carl, you're different to me. If I see anyone on the bank, I get.
You hide. No,
I get. What are you doing? Really? Leave me alone. I've got to tell this tale last year. This poor bloke, right? It's in the glue. I like to get anywhere. If I'm bait fishing, I've got to be there in the dark because as it's getting light, to me, it's the prime time.
Yeah.
So I'm setting up in the dark, head torch on, baits are out, and I'm ready. And I turn around the gloom, and this other pike angler is right next to me. And I've walked to it and said, "What are you doing?" He goes, "Oh, I've been fishing down here all year." I said, "Right, mate, if you cast your left-hand rod anywhere left, you're over my right-hand rod for starters." I said, you're just destroying both our chances." How can I put it? I told him to retreat in a certain way. He was running backwards. He only went about 600 yards away, and it's still too close, and I was looking going like this. But I can't help it.
Yeah, I think it was
lure fishing are far more friendly than
lure
bait
fishing
anglers.
really is. You know, I'm going fishing tomorrow with a good friend of mine. And in fact, when I moved to the area, it was someone that really helped me out with where to fish. So Dan, thank you very much. We're going fishing tomorrow, but Dan and I fish very close. COVID struggles with us, so we've got to be very mindful tomorrow. But if he catches a fish, chances are, while he's playing that fish, there's going to be other fish around.
Yeah.
So if you've got 2 rods, get that other rod out.
Perch are amazing. They fly, don't they?
Yeah, you catch a 2-pounder and there's a 3 following it. You're like, wow,
I've seen it happen
that's
with
amazing.
pike. Not often, but you think, what's going on? And they're like inquisitive, aren't they?
Yeah, they're like, where you going, mate? Where you going?
Yeah.
What you got?
Yeah.
So that's that.
Right, let's move this forward quickly.
Yes.
So plans for the future then, because I think this has taken you by surprise a little bit, hasn't it?
It really has. So with my last job with the dogs was out in Belgium. So unfortunately, when COVID started, it wasn't a case of I couldn't work; I couldn't come back and not isolate. So actually, my day job finished in March. This was my side gig. It was always my side gig. It paid for itself. It got me fishing, and then all of a sudden it had to be a full-time career. And so from March it's been full-time. Anyone that asked me how the lures was going before then, my automatic answer was, it will never pay the mortgage. Now it does. Now it has to. So I'm very I'm quite protective over what I do.
Yeah.
Because it does pay the mortgage. If I don't sell lures, I don't eat.
Well, yes.
So that's the reality of it. But actually, it's almost a COVID success story, which
I'm hearing a few, and it's amazing. Yeah.
I'm a bit embarrassed when people say, "How are you doing?" I'm like,
don't be embarrassed.
I'm doing pretty good.
I know lure builders in America, Sweden, and it's the same thing. And the demand for quality products is amazing. And I'll be honest with you, I haven't seen your products in the flesh until today, and the quality is amazing.
But to photograph them is very difficult.
Yeah.
Anything like that. And again, I do it all myself. I don't have a professional doing it.
I thought these were bigger, and they're not. And you look at them and think, these are quality products.
Thank you.
And they are. And when we were talking earlier about how you actually, you might just reduce it in size slightly to make it really finesse, I'm thinking, I can see why he does that.
Yeah.
And you take great, off air, you were showing me bits, and you take great pride in what you're doing and how you're developing things as well.
Yeah.
And all the successful lure anglers I've met you've got a certain trait, and that is a bit of perfectionist.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, my OCD was hammered into me back in '96.
But you have. It's
and it's
quality.
there.
It's
Yeah.
the attention to detail,
Yeah.
and you know what you want, and you're not happy till you get it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. That's another reason why I started doing it. And I've actually got a seconds bucket of lures because they're slightly wrong.
Yeah.
And a lot of people, and I'll give them away, and people say, this is a second. So yeah, it's not good enough.
Joe Peterson in America is exactly the same.
It's not good enough. It doesn't go out the door.
During lockdown, I had him on FaceTime, and he picked up one. He said, "Andy, this is no good." And I've gone, his paint, he's ex-pro skateboarder, so he's into that type of thing. And just the style is like, you can see it. And I said, that is beautiful. He went, no, if you look carefully at the gills underneath the bottom of the lure, they don't quite match up.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking, no muskie's going to care. But he does.
Yeah.
Therefore, it doesn't go out.
Yeah, there's an air bubble right there. I'm not sending it. And that's it. And then when I do look at commercially bought lures, and so if I've got a two-tone colour, there's going to be some bleed at some point, but not enough to make you go, But when I see some commercial lures and the bleed is everywhere and it's meant to be a top and bottom colour, I'm like, what the hell? Who was on that day? Or you see lures and they're just full of air bubbles.
Yeah.
You think, who was on the quality control? So yeah, it's OCD. I will never be a millionaire, but I could be if I just let things go. But I can't do it. I can't let things go.
No, you are.
So I'm there.
Because it's how to make yourself rich. And it's not about money.
Yeah.
It's about what you do, isn't it? And
when I was walking here today and I was thinking, I wonder if he's going to ask me what my ambition is. I just want to be happy.
Yeah.
I don't want anything else. I want to be content. And right now...
Well, your whole life story, you've done some amazing things. You've had some amazing experiences.
You look back at it and go, yeah, I shouldn't probably be walking right now. But hey, that's what it is.
It's fascinating. Yeah.
It's bird.
Right, before we wrap it up, Tom, let's just tell everybody how they can contact you again.
Okay, so everything is ordered through the website. So www.ffslures.com. You can also, and something we haven't touched on, is on that website is the custom lure builder section. So
right, yes,
this is where I have a lot of drop-down menus with 30, I think there's still 30 colours on there and different size glitter. So you can choose what your top colour is and what your bottom colour is. I will make that within, at the moment, and I'm sticking to it, is 5 working days. All lures are made fresh, as it were. So, and they will be dispatched within 5 working days.
And if anyone doesn't believe Tom, we were talking about this off air, about how he manages his postal and packaging part. And he's not making this up. He doesn't want stuff hanging around that people don't want.
Yeah.
It's part of the way, it's your makeup, isn't it?
Exactly. So there's only so much I can do. So I don't be wasting time making stock of something that, tubes, I haven't got any tubes here. They're awesome lures, but in the UK at the moment, they're a bit niche, and some people are going to hate me for saying buy tubes. But yeah, they're awesome lures. So that's the custom side.
Yeah.
What is on the custom side though is that I only offer them in packs of 20. So you really want to, and this is for the guys that know what colour works. So this is going back to the US side of life, where what you're going to use, green pumpkin. What else? What else is there? That's it. So I've got a few customers in the US and they just buy hundreds of lures in one colour.
Well, Kev Cox, who we had on a couple of weeks ago, is absolutely dead cert this year. Every fish he's caught of note has been on green pumpkin.
Yeah.
What a great colour.
Even in coloured water, it's a great colour because it's a silhouette.
Yeah.
But also on that, as part of the custom, I can do a translucent green pumpkin. So that's going to be green pumpkin brown or green pumpkin green, or heavy versions of those. So they are for your coloured water.
We can't explain this on air because there's too many combinations.
There's so many.
And I've done a bit of homework, and when I went on your site and had a look, some of the colours on there, you get the angler gets caught. Mm-hmm. There's some purple colours on there. I know, and I just think I don't care for catching. I just want that colour.
There's something about purple with purple glitter. Violet, Junebug, Florida Grape are the 3 purples I do.
Have you found pink really good for Zander?
I don't fish it enough.
Because pink flies are really good Zander flies.
When I talk to we're going to go back, and it's going to take ages to get out. When we were talking about the business taking off this year, the close season is terrible for lures, or it was for me last year and the year before when I was just dabbling, and obviously with COVID hitting in, I was pushing small lures for the canal guys, so any place to go, and that's where the frog and the imbi came into it. So these 2-inch lures and just sub 2-inch frogs.
Is that the little tadpole they have?
That's the inbi. So it's the inbi because it's in between a tadpole and a frog.
Right, okay, yeah.
So I thought it has to be called something. I'll call it that. And then the micro frogs, which I really wanted to release for the river season for chub, top water chub. And again, it doesn't float. And this is something that a lot of guys don't get around, is that you don't need the lure to float to work it on top.
No.
You just throw it weightless and work it.
Yeah.
And even that slow sink will induce a
Surface
strike.
film will pull it up.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So that's what I did there. But with COVID hitting in, people weren't going fishing anyway, but they wanted to buy fishing gear. And that's really where FFS Lures took off. So all those guys that did buy during COVID, thank you so much. That's absolutely... I'm truly humble by the response that the company gets.
Well, your products are just going from strength to strength, and they're responsible for so many catches of big perch around here. It's incredible.
Yeah,
because you've got quality guys using them. We mentioned Ash Costa. He's absolutely caning some of those waters where he lives.
Yeah, absolutely.
And he's quite open about how he does it, which is great.
Absolutely. I mean, I never expect someone to tell me where they catch.
No.
But if they can tell me how they rig it, why they rig it, and this is the way I am as well. People say, "Oh, how do you catch that?" Well, on this, there, this, and this. Why do you put your lure there? Because the water comes around, it does this, it does that. That's why I think the perch are going to be there. So it's all these bits of watercraft that you pick up over the years. I'm never going to give someone my exact spot.
No.
It's just crazy. You don't want to do that. But I will help people as much as possible because I want... When I have not fished, I maybe fish now a couple of hours every fortnight because I'm so busy. But when I see people smiling with a fish they've caught, it could be... one of the guys, Chris Millwood, on the canals, he had 200 fish on a frog, 200 perch out of a canal on a frog. And I was like, that's just amazing. Amazing anglers. Justin Bill, he had the first 5-pounder on one of my lures. So that was the first 5-pound perch on one of the lures on the Thames. That's an amazing fish. And that was on the Mark 1 FFS. So that was before this. Unfortunately, Anglers Times, Anglers Mail got the lure wrong. They actually gave credit to a competitor. Oh. I was wounded. I made so many white sparkle FFS in preparation. And they said it was a Z-Man. I was wounded.
I'll tell you what, I don't know much about... I haven't done a great deal, and Ash will back this up because I phoned him a few weeks ago to get some ideas about all this Ned fishing style, because I'm a bit more of a... Well, I'm a pike
You're an active guy. Yeah, you're an active fishing guy.
However, I can see the difference between their fat... just doesn't look like anything, and your products...
It still works. It still works.
It
still works absolutely
but
fantastic.
I wouldn't be confident using that stuff, because I'm thinking, oh, this is just, like I said to you, like a plastic dog turd. Whereas yours, I can see how it works. It could be a predator, a perch or zander could mistake it for a grub or a fish hanging there. And there's so many different... And because it's got that natural vibration. Yeah.
In the summertime, I like to fish it just popped up off the bottom. Yeah. Just on a
I'm not having a go at this other products, but it's just from my own layman perspective. I'm looking, because I have to have confidence in what I'm using.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, why would you throw a lump of plastic when you could buy some lobworms?
Exactly.
Or dig up some lobworms? Yeah. There's got to be a reason why you do it.
And that transition's important, isn't it?
Absolutely.
Otherwise, you're not transferring your thought process through what you're doing.
Yeah. It's one of the things that I do see people in the UK, they get stuck on. They do get stuck on bait. And they get stuck on... something I got stuck on was I fished the 20-foot, we can name it, and I was fishing the Carolina, but with the lobworm. And I was absolutely smashing it. On my kayak, absolutely loads of fish. But it became a crutch.
Yes.
And then I stopped using the worms, and I started using the plastics, and the fish size got better. It was fewer, but then you learn how to work a swim, how to do it. And it went back to like my chub fishing days where I'd have 3 spots in one swim. It's not a big river, but you'd catch a fish from that bush, you'd catch a fish from that slack, and then you'd maybe cast again over there, and you just rotate.
Yeah.
So you've had a fish out there, it's rested, you've had a fish there, you've had a fish there, and you rest it, and you rotate.
It's like a match angler using different lines out the front here, as they will do on Sunday.
Yeah.
There's a lot of transition of skills from match angling to
100%.
finesse lure angling, I think. And it's very much a similar mindset.
Yeah, 100%. It's having the fish in front of you, knowing where they're going to be, or hopefully knowing where they're going to be.
Well, lure fishing, you can move.
Exactly.
Match fishing, you're kind of stuck.
Yeah.
And it's kind of, if you don't move and find them, it's your own downfall.
Exactly.
Yeah. Right. I think we need to pull this to an end. But Tom, I think we were just explaining it was a Facebook web page.
The web page, www.ffslures.com.
Yep.
Then you've got the Facebook group, which is a really friendly community group, which is FFS Lures. And then you've got the Facebook page. So if you are on there, give it a like. I do have a YouTube channel, which during COVID I was doing some live streams, and I've put those on there. They're long, but you can actually see me working, making the lures. Yeah. A lot of them I was actually making custom orders live, so I actually had the customers on watching me make their lures.
Oh, that's a good idea.
Yeah, it was awesome. It was awesome. Hard work.
What's the YouTube channel called?
FFS Lures.
Right, okay.
Yeah, it's the commercial
Strange
channel.
That.
Yeah, I have to think about something. And then the Instagram, which again, FFS Lures. So all those. I am just one guy, so it's difficult to keep all the messages over those platforms. I do answer Messenger. Private is probably best on Messenger, or actually the best way is email via the website. I've made the website myself. There's all contact forms. You can phone me, but 9 times out of 10 I get spam called. So if you do want to phone me about lures or want to talk out through a lure, leave a message and I'll get back to you, because otherwise it's just someone trying to sell me PPI.
Yeah. Well, from my perspective, I've looked at you guys out there. You need to check out this website, because I can't, the colours that you can produce and some of the variations that you can provide are just mind-blowing.
I did a quick calculation, and with the colours on the website, I think there's 900 variations that you could have. So if you want something totally bespoke, you got it.
Wow.
And just order it, and it's all there. It's all there. Drop down menus, order it, I'll make it. Sometimes I look at it and go, ooh. And sometimes, but those ones catch fish. And the really random ones just go, why did that guy think of that? Okay, I'll make it. And they go, I just caught a massive fish on that. Yeah. Wow, that's awesome. Thank you. And the confidence, they're throwing what they want. And
the feeling it must give you, the internal drive and that warm feeling must be great.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, it leaves me to say one thing. It's been an absolute pleasure to have you on the podcast.
Thank you for having me.
Oh, thank you very much for popping round.
Yeah.
And I'm sure we'll get lots of people wanting to find out.
Well, hopefully it wasn't too much of me and my own voice.
No, it's been lovely. Thank you very much for your time, Tom.
Thank you.